You also look at our labor force. Our labor force is growing much better than the country as a whole, which is really, really important. And we did over 70,000 private sector jobs in July. That's one of the best numbers in the modern history of Florida. And so we're doing all that with a lot of these headwinds that we're seeing from Washington with the Biden administration. You look when they came in and they started printing all this money, the cost of all this stuff really started shooting up. Groceries, energy, utilities, home prices, rent, all these different things that have really, and not obviously throughout the whole country, but we're not immune to that here in Florida. So you see that, and the energy is I think intentional, because they're really trying to make it hard to produce oil and gas here in the United States. And I think if you look what's going on in Europe, they're facing some really serious problems because of some of the choices they made with respect to energy. Massive, massive spikes, and that could get very ugly very, very quickly. So, in the United States, it's a national security issue. It's an economic security issue. We need to be able to produce our own energy. We need to make sure we have enough energy to be able to run the economy and then make it so that people are able to afford it.
Okay, so basically what President DeSantis is trying to tell you is we need to drill, baby, drill, and continue exploiting the ability to extract fossil fuel energy from our own country rather than the Middle East. Okay, so you don't want to take oil from the Middle East anymore. That's wonderful. You want to just take it from here. Yet, we're not talking about the things that need to be done when it comes to actually changing the energy grid, even though that technology is readily available and more of it can be produced and created without just having to drill, and destroy people's lands and contaminate their water supply, man-made earthquakes, all those little things that somehow always manage to be forgotten when dealing with this significant problem, at least as far as I can tell. Yeah?
I'm sorry. I was sitting here thinking about burritos.
Ooh, I like a burrito.
I know. That's what I was sitting here thinking about, ordering a burrito. I'm sorry. I got distracted. I was thinking about more important things than DeSantis.
So you're not really paying attention to the segment at all?
Not really. No, so much.
Okay.
Sorry.
So we'll continue and I'll just do it myself.
It's not what Biden has wanted to do. He thinks that somehow you're not going to have oil and gas. It's just going to be windmills and solar. That's not going to happen. And like Florida, we've got a lot of solar and it's fine. It's a complement, but it is not a substitute to be able to run an economy. I think Europe is finding out with being so dependent on Russia for some of this. They're really at the mercy there. You see, some of these areas are just seeing massive spikes. That's devastating. And so, we don't want to see that here. Unfortunately, I do think that you're going to see it looks like oil futures are going back up. You could end up seeing gas prices turn back up over the next couple of months. There's a lot of people that are predicting that. So that's a huge problem. And that impacts everything that's going on with the economy. It's not just going to the gas pump and getting hit with higher gas prices. It impacts everything that people are buying and businesses and the whole 9 yards. You look at how much food has gone up. Been huge spikes in prices for food. So the bills at grocery stores, obviously restaurants have to deal with it too. So you see all that. And then what are they doing to try to mitigate that? Actually, I think they're putting fuel on the fire. If you look at this most recent legislation, Inflation Reduction Act, they're calling it, they're actually imposing taxes on energy, on oil and gas. And so they're going to make it more expensive. When you tax something, it becomes more expensive. So they impose taxes on that, knowing that we're facing all these energy problems, which is a huge...
Okay, that's a lie. Just because you tax something doesn't make it more expensive. That is a corporate talking point.
That's not how this works.
That's not how this works. So trying to make you believe that we can't tax anything, otherwise they're just going to screw you. That's how people have been convinced over the years that supply side economics is the answer. Just lower taxes for the rich and they will certainly allow it to trickle down to you. But as we've seen over 40 years, that is anything but the truth. And yet the potential commander-in-chief lying in wait is having you believe that that's how economics works. That if you tax big agriculture, they're going to just make food more expensive, so why tax them at all? The idea that mega corporations should pay no taxes proves that we don't have a president that is in control or a Congress that's in control. We have multinational corporations that have their corporate special interests control our government. Tell me how that's anything but that.
Well, we have a completely non-functioning republic. I've been saying that for a long time. So that's because it was bought. It was bought. All three branches have been sold. And so that's why nothing's happening. That's why we have policies that don't reflect the will of the populace. There's a disconnect because the people in charge are not us.
Damn right.
So I know it's not me.
We'll continue.
Huge no-no. They also authorized 87,000 new IRS agents. And those IRS agents are going to be mobilized to go after people that the government doesn't like. This is not something where they're only going to be going after billionaires. In fact, billionaires all have accountants and lawyers. They're going to be going after people who are not going to be able to defend themselves against these audits. And, they actually proposed an amendment when this was being debated in the U.S. Senate saying none of these agents can audit under $400,000 a year. And the Democrats voted that down. They did not want to protect Americans that are making under $400,000. So your question is why would they not have wanted to do that? Because they want this to be something that is going after sole proprietors and handymen and people that own restaurants or people that drive an Uber. And so it's going to be those folks that are going to be least able to withstand an audit that they're going to go after, because that's really the low-hanging fruit. If you go after that, you're going to be able to probably scrounge a lot of stuff. So that's not a good thing for an economy to be unleashing the IRS. And it's also the case that the tax code it's incomprehensible. So if they go after you, a lot of times they're going to be able to find something, especially if you don't have an accountant or you don't have lawyers. So I thought it was really, really reprehensible that they'd be mobilizing 87,000 IRS agents. And I think every member of Congress that voted for that bill should be required to be audited every year by the IRS.
On that note, I agree. I'm guessing you do too. We agree with Governor DeSantis. There is no need whatsoever for 87,000 IRS employees. He said agents, which is not true. So there's even a little lie in there as well, because why not lie even when you don't need to? We don't need 87,000 IRS employees. You want to talk about government waste of the worst kind? And he is absolutely correct, whether he gives a damn or not. Governor DeSantis is correct. You really think that the IRS, directed by our government elites, are going after corporate special interest leaders? No. They're going after regular people like you and I. That's who they're going to go after. They are under no circumstances going to be going after those.
I agree, Guy, and I think it has to do with he's been having some significant weight fluctuation.
Oh, yeah, no, he's put on a lot of weight. So I think part of it is his suits have not caught up, or maybe he doesn't want to spend too much money on fat clothes if he's planning on losing a few. I don't know. That's how I do it. But I do agree with Keith Olbermann on this, that DeSantis' suits often do look ill-fitted. Yeah, he ain't getting good fashion advice.
No, he's great at politics, though.
He is. And on this particular issue, he is correct. And he really finished the topic on a very high note, which is if you're going to have all these IRS agents, have them audit Congress. Every one of them. You won't have much of a Congress left if they really did their job now, would they? Probably not.
Well, why? They apparently are allowed to do insider trading with abandon.
Oh, yeah, of course. Well, as long as it's legal. Well, it's
But it's not legal. That's not legal.
Didn't President Nixon say in that, Frost-Nixon interview, that when the president does it, it's not illegal?
Right.
And unfortunately, that's a slip of the tongue, because he's admitting that actually that's correct. The president does it, it's not illegal, and it's totally not illegal when I do it.
All right.
So, yeah, we'll give points to DeSantis on that one.
Then Biden is saying he can unilaterally do this student loan, just cancel. Not really cancel, taxpayers will pick up the tab, for student loans. And first of all, you can't do that unilaterally by executive action.
Yes, you can. No matter what you think and no matter what you hear, the president of the United States has certain executive authority, one of them being he can cancel student debt. He can also decriminalize all drugs. He can expunge all nonviolent drug offender records. He can end all wars. He can close all military bases. He can expand health care to everyone with the stroke of a pen. The president has the authority to do these things. And this is a man who is likely to be the next president, which is unfortunate. But he's saying things that are simply not true at all. Big lie, bigly, totally bigly lie. He bigly lied on that.
But now that's just so standard. I feel like that's the common denominator is they all lie.
If you don't agree with student loan debt cancellation, that's fine. Then say that. Saying that the president can't do it, that's bullshit.
We already went over this when it was Nancy Pinocchio-Losi.
The president doesn't have the authority to.
We went all over that. We discussed it.
And in fact, I think he mentions that. So we'll continue.
He does not have the authority to do that. This is something that.
Hi, I'm Alex Schultz. Yep, that's me. A few years ago, my friend and I took a surf trip.
A lot of people have said, even Pelosi said couldn't be done, and yet he's going ahead and doing it. And so that's not consistent with the constitutional form of government. But you also look at what will the effects of this be? And you even have economists that work for Barack Obama saying this is going to put gas on the inflation fire because you're going to effectively be injecting a lot more money with an already big money supply. So I think that that's something, it's certainly not going to reduce inflation, and it very well may exacerbate. And they think it may end up being $1 trillion when all is said and done. They've been doing trillions of dollars every year. It seems like, just kind of keep doing it, hoping nothing goes wrong. But when you have inflation the way it is, not the opportune time to do it. And the thing is like, okay, you have people that have paid it off. So it's obviously not fair to them. You have other people that have made other choices because they didn't want to go deep into debt. And so maybe they pursued trades or other things rather than do this. So then now they're going to be put with the bill. But it's also the fact that, the colleges and universities have benefited from all this debt. They raise tuition. They expand their massive bloat in the bureaucracies in a lot of these universities. And like a lot of them have these big endowments. Why aren't they paying for the loans? They should be responsible for the loans because it was their recklessness. It wasn't the American taxpayer that was reckless about it. And so what Biden's doing, he doesn't have the authority to do it. But if you're going to do something, no reform of higher education, no reform of any of this, the way it's gone for the last generation, which has been a massive amount of waste going into a system and putting a lot of debt on the backs of a lot of people. In Florida, we don't permit that. So since I've been governor, there have been no tuition increases at our state university. We've frozen the tuition. And basically, you can go to University of Florida or Florida State. It's like $6,000, $6,400 for in-state tuition. Not a lot of places around this country where you can get that, where you can go for that type.
Excellent point made by the governor. Can't deny that.
Score to the governor.
And what's even more amazing is that when I went to Rutgers living in New Jersey as an in-state student, that was how much tuition was back in the early 2000s, about $6,500 a year. The fact that that's how much it costs a Florida resident to go to any of the major state universities, FAU, FIU, USF, UCF, UF, Jacksonville, University of Jacksonville.
No, Florida's
Florida
pretty
State,
decent about that.
Higher education? Yeah. You got to get.
And tech schools, actually.
Yeah. Give governor, you got to get, listen, like I said, everyone, if you're going after the governor, you must acknowledge what is done correctly, because if you are elected governor, you would be either staying with that or improving upon it. Instead of just casting this net of you're terrible. Yes, on social issues, DeSantis is not good. On economic issues like this, like higher education, this is good. Even if we don't have tuition-free public college, if you are going to school for a year, you can afford to pay $6,000. Anyone who, I did it. If you go to public college, you can have a part-time job, and that will absolutely.
It's a doable situation. So
100%.
She's 45.
Oh,
and she came in 16. So she's with his little group. So she's basically a Trumpist. She's a Trumpite.
That's Erin Grahl standing.
Yes, for anybody who doesn't know, that's Erin Grahl.
One of the worst.
That is like in the state house. She's my least favorite person in the state house. That's the woman who was put up the parental consent for abortion.
Coat hanger.
Use
a coat hanger, ladies and gentlemen.
I can't with her. She's got 3 daughters, and I got to tell you, as mean as it is, I hope that she has to deal with something like that. Where, now you're seeing things where women who are having ectopic pregnancies are having to carry them until they get septic because the doctors won't have abortions. I have to tell you, karma would be that she or someone in her family has to deal with something pretty horrendous.
But usually that's how it happens, and usually that's when the change happens.
I'm just
unfortunate, but
hate her.
Everybody hates everybody else until it hits their doorstep, and that's how change comes. And that's on most circumstances. So we will continue.
So we've just said it's got to be affordable. We're not going to just pump money in with more tuition, run the institution in an effective way and deliver value for something so that students can go to school and not end up deep in debt. And so they can actually do something with their life rather than be smothered in this. And so I think that there's a whole host of reasons why it was very problematic, but I am proud of what we've been able to do in Florida to recognize that going deep into debt is not a good thing. And if you go $100,000 in debt, you end up with a master's degree in engineering from MIT. Look, you're going to be okay. You're going to do fine. But what happens is you have these 4th-tier universities that they charge as much as Harvard, and people go 150,000 in debt because they're told it's just this piece of paper that's magic, and that's not true. And so that's why we've said it's got to be affordable. We're proud that our university system is ranked #1 by U.S. News and World Report. We're proud that now, University of Florida is now the 5th-ranked public university in the country behind UCLA, Berkeley, Michigan, and Virginia.
The name Vegamore comes from vegan and amor. It's love. Love for life, love for yourself.
And I was used to be like 20th in the country for public. Now it's 5. So that's quality for affordability. And I don't think anybody in the country has a better value proposition than we do. But at the same time, as much as we're proud of that, we've done a lot to expand workforce education because there's a whole bunch of different pathways where you can be successful. You don't have to go to a 4-year brick and ivy university. And so we've done a lot to expand apprenticeships, to expand job training for things that are really, really important. And when you look at the supply chain, you need more people to drive trucks. You need people that can fix trucks. There's a whole host of things that you need. It also helps attract manufacturing when you see that a state is very committed to strong workforce. So we're going to continue to do that. I think it makes a lot of sense. And the Job Growth Grant Fund, which we're going to talk about today for here in Fort Pierce, that's one of the tools that we've used to be able to identify what the needs are in workforce, where we can make an impact. And so when we're expanding commercial driver's license slots, when we're expanding apprenticeships, when we're doing things, a lot of times it's because we're looking to see around the state where we could get the most impact on. So we've done a lot on job training and workforce education. And I think that that's paid off. I think it'll continue to pay off. But we've also done a lot on infrastructure with our Job Growth Grant Fund, because there are certain things that if you can provide an underlying support for infrastructure, then the economy and all this stuff has an opportunity to really grow. And we've done that in various portions of the state, and we've had a lot of impact, and businesses have moved, and there's been expansion. And so we allow local communities to apply for these grants. We kind of scrutinize them. They're ranked according to impact. And then we determine in my office kind of what makes the most sense to be able to get the most bang for our buck. And so here in Fort Pierce,
so again, he really brings up a very good point, which is everyone in many cases is directed to go into higher education when in reality, it's much more long-term beneficial to learn a trade, to learn a skill. And hearing one of the most, if not the most recognizable governor, or 2 or 3 in the whole country, making a statement like that is important at a time when student debt is a huge crisis in our country. But it is true. Here's the problem that Governor DeSantis is not addressing. We do not have tuition-free public college or trade schools in the United States. So even if you want to apprentice and learn how to be a welder or an electrician or a plumber or hell, even a bartender. Bartenders, you could do that, but it's not for everybody. There's a lot of different jobs that are out there, but you have to pay money in order to become these things. As far as I'm concerned, if you want to learn a trade, they should be paying you.
Well, again, and Guy, this goes to what he's saying too about why not get rid of tuition altogether. I agree. What we need is we need pre-K through 16 education. We need pre-K through 16 education, and the last 4 years are to be determined by the person. You can do it in university, you can do it in trade school, get an apprenticeship, whatever, but it's paid for. And when you do those things and you actually invest in education, I think that is one of those things that serves us all in the long term. But yeah, we need to just stop saying it's free college. Why do we have to call it that? We didn't used to have K through 12. We didn't have primary school, right? We didn't have that. That wasn't something that we had. And now we're thinking that extra 4 years is just, we can't have that. That's crazy. And it's so strange that people look at it that way. Why can't we just call it 16? If that'll make you feel better, we're just expanding because we think in the past couple hundred years, we think another 4 years might be worthwhile.
And I got to tell you, it's amazing. With the exception of Bernie, really, with him, the exception of him, all the Democrats ever talk about is we need tuition-free college. Whereas DeSantis and the GOP are much smarter about this when it comes to messaging. They focus on actual tangible things like learning a trade and being able, again, which
speaks to the majority of people.
Correct. It's a proverb oldest time. Give a man a fish, he'll eat for a day. Teach a man a fish, he'll eat for the rest of his life. And that basically is the thing that is being emphasized here. I believe that public college should be tuition free, but trade schools as well. You have to emphasize both, and it only seems like one is ever getting mentioned. But if you can only pick one of the two, you're going to pick the one that's likely to provide you with a career that you can have for as many years as you want.
I'm telling you, pre-K through 16. You do what you want with those last 4 years. We have varying options.
Sure.
That's what they do in places like Denmark. In places like, some people, they do test people, and some people qualify to go to university and some people don't, but it's free when you go. So, but it's really offering different options for people based on what their aptitude is, which is it's the smarter thing to do.
And you have an opportunity with what's going on with some of this revitalization that you're seeing. And so we're proud today to be able to award $2.7 million to the city to redevelop the 8-acre King's Landing site in the city's downtown area. And that has an opportunity to do a lot. So this will help the city reconstruct aging utility infrastructure, reconstruct a portion of Indian River Drive, make pedestrian safety enhancements, and improve the Moores Creek Bridge. So these public infrastructure improvements will help this area attract new businesses, including restaurants, retail stores, and even a full-service hotel. Additionally, by improving this infrastructure and addressing transportation needs, the project will support additional growth in nearby areas like the Port of Fort Pierce and the Fisherman's Wharf project. And so we're very bullish on St. Lucie County as a whole. We think Fort Pierce, really is a great spot. And I think this is really going to help the area continue to blossom. So we anticipate that this project alone will end up attracting about 1,300 jobs to the area, and will have a fiscal impact of over $5 million. And of course, to the extent it's helping these other areas too, that fiscal impact is able to build. So it's an honor for me to be able to present the mayor with the check. So where's she at? Go over here. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Sure.
Isn't it? I think that might be her dish. She's Vero, but I don't know if it goes south to Fort Pierce.
So as you can see,
I have a hate on for her.
Yeah. The reason why we put this video up is because we need people to understand why DeSantis is popular, why it's very likely he's going to win again. And, if you're going to solve the problem, it can't be solved at the top. That doesn't mean that you don't support whoever, Charlie Crist, Val Demings, whatever. It comes from the bottom with candidates like Gabriel Gonzalez. That's what the GOP understands, and that's what the Democrats, especially older liberals, don't understand.
They keep wanting to do the same things over and over again.
And what do you do when you do the same things over and over again and expect a different result? What's that called?
Insanity. Thanks for watching. If you want to support our mission to transform politics into service, please like this video, subscribe, follow us on social media, and consider joining our Patreon, where you'll get early access to our interviews as well as other exclusive content. Links are in the description. Peace out.